Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the Warrior Alpha 4-roll, it's FR Pro, but it stands for 4-roll Pro snapshot review of the gloves. So I did a video on the Alpha LX, which is kind of deviation of what the Alpha line used to be. So that is in a different video that you can see it'll be linked at the end of this video. But for right now, we're going to go into the 4-roll, this new line that Warrior has come out with, and we're going to kind of talk about it. We'll do the standardized fit testing as well, and kind of go over a bit of a history of Warrior 4-rolls and why they might have gone back to or brought another line to make sure they do have that 4-roll option. But before all that, if you are interested in purchasing any hockey equipment and live in the United States, check out the link in the description to Pure Hockey and Pure Goalie. Clicking that link, making a purchase gives me a kickback, helps support the channel so I keep doing reviews and making real reviews and doing more content. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel, check out the links in the description to Patreon, buy me a coffee, everything through there. Again, comes right back into the channel so I keep making content and doing actual reviews with tests. I would love to take all these gloves and shoot pucks at them with the puck machine, but they're not my gloves, so I can't do that. So a bit of an overview of Warrior 4-rolls, and I talked about this in the LX Pro. I'm going to talk about it again here because this is specifically for the 4-rolls themselves, and explain kind of why this glove exists. And also, if you look at the history of Warrior, you kind of understand why this graphic is what they went to. A long time ago, Warrior bought a company called Mia. Mia was making 4-roll gloves, and I think they were making them in the NHL just under Mia branding, and they were awesome. They were loved by everyone. Warrior did make equipment and gear, and they wanted a good glove, and they bought Mia, and Mia was fantastic. Made in Canada, awesome quality. They're super comfortable, very, very popular. They had a ton of custom options as well. The Warrior franchise, which is what this is, ignore that logo for a second, is what was spawned off of that Mia purchase. It was basically the same glove Mia made, but it was Warrior branded, and they called it the franchise, and it was usually shown right there. Now, Warrior moved all their production of everything overseas, so you couldn't get the Mia actual Canadian-made gloves anymore. A really good repair person called Pro Custom Repair, I'll link those in the description. They have a cool YouTube channel. Actually was part of the Warrior factory in Quebec that was making Warrior gloves, and for pros and for like a custom customer, they had an awesome custom program that all went away. Then when they did the AX1, and it kind of streamlined things and made it more retail like everyone else and not really special anymore. So these gloves, like I said, they say AX1, but it's not the case. Warrior was rebranding franchises as AX1s just to have something like companies do all the time with sticks and stuff like that. Just so you can't buy franchise anymore, but you can buy AX1s. Zetterberg, this was a Zetterberg spec glove, whereas AX1s buy AX1s. So the way you can tell an AX1 from a franchise is a few things. Like the whole glove is honestly different, but they're 4-rolls. So the easiest way right here, if they look like this, exactly like this, is a franchise. If it looks more like this, and yes, this is a covert, but bear with me, if the index finger protection is like that, or close to this, and kind of just like this as well, it's basically that. It is an AX1. So this one, obviously not an AX1. After the AX1, Warrior came out with the Warrior Alpha QX gloves, which I was one of the first people to do reviews on. I was a Warrior VIP for this, and I made a bunch of content on it. The gloves were super comfortable. Warrior went with their butter soft feel, and they were super comfortable and felt amazing, but the protection was atrocious. The padding on it was terrible. There was massive gaps in the fingers right here. You could stick a stick through, and they were really bad in that sense. I said that they were really bad protection, so they're super comfortable. Protection was severely lacking. They need to make changes. I was no longer part of the Warrior VIP program after that. I don't know if they're correlated. I'm just saying what it is. After that, Warrior came out with the Alpha DX, which I'll link up at the top right here, which was basically the QX glove, but with better foams, so way better foam package, and they kind of made sure all the padding was sewn closer together, so it was a lot more protective and less gaps. Fantastic gloves, very good at retail. Like the padding protection there was way, way better than what the QX was, so they were on the right track. For some reason, Warrior decided to deviate again. Both of those were 4-rolls, but they were 4-rolls on like a slope. So if you actually look at the gloves are kind of sloped like that, which is okay because when you actually close your hand, it closes better than what a normal 4-roll does. Warrior decided to deviate from that and make the LX Pro, which, while it has 4 breaks, totally different style of glove. I covered this in that video, so watch that one. But Warrior does have a history of 4-roll gloves, and like this one, which is fantastic. So they kept that tradition going, and they came out with this line, which is the Alpha FR Pro. And again, FR is for 4-roll. So while the naming of these is confusing because it says FR Pro, they're not on the price point of the LX Pro. These are $159 Canadian versus $249 Canadian. So they're more of a budget conscious and more of a price point glove. One thing that is really confusing about the LX Pro compared to previous Warrior gloves, previously the Pro line was actually the step down from the top. And so it was like QRL, QR Edge, and then QR Pro was the one below. Same with QX. QX was the top. QX Pro was the one below. Warrior switched that up. Now the Pro is the top. I have a feeling it's because all the companies have kind of done that. Bauer at one point, the 2S Pros were the top line, and the Warriors were the step down. And then CCM now, all the Pros is the top line of everything. FT4 Pro for the skates, sticks. I think Warrior honestly copied that direction everyone's going in, where the Pro is now the top line. Same with their sticks. The LX Pro is the top one. So confusing, and I think the LX20 is like the next one. It's confusing, but that's what it is. So just want to call that out. Glove, because of that, Pro is more of a previous equivalence of their naming, where the Pro wasn't actually the top model of the glove. This is the top 4-roll that they have, but it's not the same like material wise and foam package as that one, and the price obviously. So just want to, it's just weird. There are some things here that they clearly cheapened out on, but at the same time, it's pretty decent overall. So we're going to cover a few things off the get-go and from the outside, and we'll kind of just go from there. So the materials they're using on this is honestly the same as what they're using on the LX Pro, so it's pretty impressive in that regards. They have like their TPU right here, which is that like leather looking material. Pro nylons throughout as well. You can see it here, here, here. It doesn't have that interesting this nylon, which is on the Pro Stock and on here. So kind of interesting that doesn't exist on it. It's just the other nylon. It's not a big deal, but just want to call it out. And the same kind of interesting little details right here of this like plastic thing glued on for that detail all the way through. This design is a very classic Warrior 4-roll design. They've done this in the past, and with the fingers like this one, you can see the middle stripes. Kind of same idea here is, and they also had the pinky stripes before, where we could just get the pinky in this one line going through. Very classic Warrior, so I get why they went there, and it honestly is a pretty good idea. Nothing crazy on the rest of the glove from this regards. Don't have that mesh gusset on here, just a cheaper. This was always on like the Pro level, kind of cheaper materials that are not spandex, not mesh, just a kind of a nylon slight mesh, but it's not really great for that sense. And then you have a Pro Palm. We'll talk about that in a second. Keeping on the outside, we'll talk about the foam package first. So Warrior on their website says this has Impax foam, but I don't know if like what part of this is supposed to be Impax foam, because this is a single density foam all the way through with a plastic insert on top. This is a multi-density foam, and both of these foams are considerably different than what this foam is. So this foam is, you can see me squish this in, not super dense there. So it's a lot less dense, which kind of means less protective, especially when you don't have that multiple layers, but it does have that plastic insert still on top. But it's, again, price point glove, so it's not the biggest deal, but it's definitely not the Pro Stock in terms of protection and stuff like that, but also not $250 retail. The nice thing about the padding on here, though, is it does have that beefed pinky finger protection, and I called this out, again, I mentioned on this review, I called this out like 6 years ago when I had the very first QRL gloves in my hands. I'm like, well, you guys got to change something, because the QRL and all the Warriors gloves for a while were just this crappy piece of either foam or a really tiny piece of plastic, and it was useless. Other companies had a bigger piece that was much more useful, and you could feel the difference. Finally, Warrior did that. I love how Warrior's advertising that now when everyone else has had it forever. Like, that should have just been on your gloves forever. But hey, they improved it, so I gotta give them credit for that. 2-piece fingers all the way through, as you can see. With the 2-piece finger, obviously you're gonna have some gaps there, but they're not massive like they used to be with their butter soft feel. So like the whole stick doesn't really fit in there. It does get stuck. Now, I also can't jam my fingers in here and definitely like directly feel the top of my knuckles, which was a problem with Warrior gloves in the past. That's not really the case anymore. You can do it a little bit here, but even then it's a lot harder and a lot more difficult for that to happen. So much better than the old Warrior gloves in terms of padding breaks. 2 isn't huge, but Bauer does 2 on their Nexus as well. And again, price point gloves, so not the worst thing ever. Dexterity on this is pretty good. You can see how that hand is breaking there. I also do like how they have that little piece of material right here for extra protection, just to block things from hitting in there and just to keep the gloves a little bit separate. So it does allow a little bit better movement, and you can really see how that's bending with your hand. So it's moving pretty well. Again, this is all the way across, where the old QX and DX was slanted. So when you did this pinky to index finger, it worked a lot better on the DX and QX than this one does. This one is not great, to be honest. It barely touches. It's a lot harder. You can see how you don't have that movement down here because of that. That's the nature of 4-roll gloves and this glove, and a personal preference. It does have the same flex thumb as their top end gloves, and it's an okay flex thumb. It's pretty solid. It's always been like this. It's not that super like bad or anything, and there's a hyperextension protection is just okay as well. So it's nothing crazy on this glove, but it definitely, like, pinky to thumb isn't the easiest to do on here compared to other ones because of that 4-roll design. Now, you can really see how much this glove will fold with your hands when you fold it. You can see how well this 4-roll really works for that, but you do lose that across the like backhand roll and that kind of dexterity. You lose that when you go to strictly a 4-roll design like this. So just a heads up. The cuff is interesting. It is just a piece of foam. There's no plastic in there or anything. I can kind of bend it if I want to this way, but there's nothing crazy in there, and it's not super protective by itself, but it's the same foam that is on the LX Pro. With that said, because of how this inner cuff works, the protection on this cuff is basically the best on retail, and that's pretty good, but that's because of this inner cuff. Now, this inner cuff is honestly pretty terrible. And if you look at it, it doesn't open up a ton. It's pretty tight. Some people like tighter fitting gloves, especially 4-rolls, but you look at that and there's not a ton of movement there, and it kind of gets in the way. I have no issues with companies not putting that spandex in here to allow it to stretch or anything, because I like that extra protection there versus what this is. But just the way that this cuff is designed, it's super simple, as you can see, like barely any flare. It doesn't move out much, and it gets in the way really quickly when you do this because it's all one piece all the way around. It's all attached. I mentioned this before on this glove. You could cut the seams right here to make this really flare out better, but it's still really cheap and kind of honestly too simple of a design to really make this glove really good in terms of how this cuff is. So many things could be done better. Just a comparison, while this is a full price glove, obviously that one has that spandex so it flexes, but the cuff is just so much more open and it won't get in the way anymore. While this flares out, it won't get it stuck on anything. This one is just gonna hit stuff way easier, and just the movement of it just stops so much more. Same with this right here, where this kind of flexes out with your hand, the undercuff, and this one just gets totally stuck. And for a fair comparison, we have like the STX HPR2, which is also a 4-roll. You can see how that cuff flexes outwards, and this one just gets stuck right away. So it's kind of disappointing in that sense. And that's where I'm saying this cuff design is just too simple, and you can see the open differences on here. And it's just like, it's not nice enough. And I talked about this on the LX Pro. I'm going to talk about it again here. Even though that this is a cheaper glove and a pretty decent value glove and a better price point, this design and everything is just too cheap. I'm not saying go something crazy like this so you have a flex cuff like that. I'm not saying do that, but this should at least be multiple pieces on the bottom, even like this, or just something better, even not like what was on the QRLs, something better than what this is. It's kind of disappointing Warrior went this route, but it is what it is, and I guess that's all I can say on that compared to the LX Pro. So this one doesn't have that Wartech WNC liner in the Polygene, so it's not treated for antimicrobial and smelling stuff compared what's on like this one. You can see a slight difference between the liners, but it's like super minimal. But as you can see, there's that little bit slight different material on there, nothing crazy. The 4-roll Pro is comfortable. The liner feels nice in your hand. It's not crazy thick, but it's kind of snug. This is a 14, and so we'll talk about sizing in a second, but it's pretty snug on your hand for a 4-roll, as you can see, because the length I wouldn't go up to a 15 for this. But the palm is their Pro palm, and this is just an ivory Nash. A lot less detailed than what's on the Pro one, but honestly, this palm is fine and feels pretty solid. It does not feel anything like their actual Pro palms, which, while it's a different color, this thing is so much more softer, but it wears out so fast. And then even their old palms, which were more durable than the newer ones, still much softer, much nicer material. This one definitely feels like not great. It's not AX suede level nice. It's just okay. I like it better than this because it doesn't have the weird texture on it, but it's fine. It's just okay. On a stick itself, grip feels standard. It's not super slippery or anything. Obviously, I can't wear this or use this. It doesn't stick too much either, but I can't use this on ice to actually see how it works when wet and everything. Protection on this glove is honestly pretty solid all around. Even though it is that one layer density foam, it's not going to get Pro Stock protection or anything like that, but for $159, it's pretty solid, and Warrior did a pretty good job on this. Like, I have no problems issuing it tell people to wear. Like, you're not, again, not the top protection, but it's solid all the way around from what I can do for the tests on. No like massive thumb issues. I can feel a little bit of the thumb, but not massive like some of the other gloves I reviewed recently. So pretty solid job by Warrior in that sense. If you're in Canada and you're looking to buy hockey equipment anyways, check out the links in the description to Hockey Supremacy. Clicking that link, making a purchase gives me a kickback. That way I help support the channel and I keep making real reviews and making more content. So onto the fit test. Warrior gloves have the 4 rolls. I've always kind of gone down a side just because I don't like the looseness of it. This one is a 13.5 and it's crazy tight and I blow by it, but that's a pro sock, so it doesn't really matter. So with that said, this one fits pretty big and I think this is a 14. I wouldn't go bigger than this. My fingers aren't coming past here. So if you want a looser fit, you can obviously go bigger, or you can just pull that liner out to get a more looser backhand and you get a little bit of protection here, sort of. Regardless, fingertips aren't blowing past it, so it's basically a little bit bigger than a 14. And as a comparison, we'll put the hands in and everything, but just to say off the top, I wear a 15 Bauer retail for Supreme Vapor, 14 for Nexus. I also wear a 15 everything CCM, but they're 4 rolls. Their most recent one I would go down to a 14. And for previous Warrior QRLs, QR Edge, I wear a 15 as well. And these are a 14 QR Edge Pro Stock, and my fingers blast past the back. You can see right there. These are a 14, so these are too small lengthwise. For this one, 14 fits right on, but we'll put the hands in there to give you the standardized test look. So now with the hand, this is the 15, or my hand basically size in there, and you can see the fingertips are right there, right at the end. This one's a little longer, but it's just like kind of how long that finger is. That one's right there. That one's right there. So not blowing by or anything. Definitely where I wouldn't go bigger, or, well, I wouldn't go smaller for this hand for sure, but that's like more of a 15 hand for a lot of companies right there. And then when we look at the smaller, which is the 14 hand, you can see the difference right there. So the finger, I have that much gap between that finger and the piece right there. That one's pretty close to the end, but again, same with this one where this one's pushing out, but the middle finger is the big tell where you have that much room. And then on this one, you have a room too, and you can see under there too. That's where it ends up. So like I said, 14 4 roll fits like a 15, a bunch of other companies, not 4 rolls. And then it fits like the same as other companies 4 rolls. So it's pretty on par. With that said, STX, this is a 14 4 roll, and you can see my finger blowing past it right there. So the HPR2s fit like a 14. They're standard. So this one fits smaller than this one does, just for sake of comparison. So that's about it for the Warrior 4 roll or FR Pro glove snapshot review. I'm happy Warrior is doing a 4 roll glove still, even when they deviated away with the LX Pro with this. I don't think that this is what people really ask for. People want basically a new version of this. And I can tell you that this cuff is too plain and it's too restrictive to be really worthwhile. It was the same cuff as what's on this, which is really surprising because it's a $250 glove and this is a $159 glove. So it's a little bit easier to get away with on this. But for comparison's sake, when you have a company like STX doing 4 rolls, and these are like $100 US or $110 US, which ends up being about $160, so pretty close to this. And the make of this is just so much better in terms of how that construction is. It's kind of disappointing that this was Warrior's offering. Overall, the glove is fine. The look of it is fantastic. It's super classic. It looks good. I don't like how this is like the cheap stitching compared to the nice 3D stitching, as you can see there. Their Pro stocks have that really nice thick stitching. This one does not have that at all. But again, price point glove, so kind of a nitpick there, not something super important. Definitely try it on. It's pretty comfortable. And like I said, the price is pretty good, but I think there are better options out there for that price. And I really think this cuff needs to be adjusted. Good job on the protection here, but this is just too boring, and snip this off at the minimal. But I really think Warrior has to change this up pretty significantly to be like as good as the competition. And this is a pretty simple cuff design too, as you can see right here. I'd be okay with that. You're just owning up how big the cuff is, and then you gotta do something on the back though, so it's actually flexible. I get not having this. That doesn't make sense at retail, but something else I think has to change because this isn't really that amazing. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Remember to subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, links are in the description. If this video was helpful in making your purchase, please, or any of my videos, please reach out to your companies on social media, let them know, helps me get on the radar. So hopefully I can get demo sets and stuff so I can actually do reviews on and make like testing videos and things like that. If you want to support the channel and live in the United States or Canada, check out the links in the description to Hockey Supremacy and Pure Hockey. In Canada, clicking the link to Hockey Supremacy and making a purchase gives me a kickback. In the US, clicking the link to Pure Hockey and making a purchase gives me a kickback as well. Everything through those links comes right back into the channel, so I keep making real reviews and more content. Otherwise, check out the links to Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. Everything through there comes right back in the channel, so I can make more content and making more real reviews. Thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.